Hey everyone, welcome back to another organizing episode. My name is Marie Jackson. I am your host and owner of Organize Marie. If you are new here, welcome. We are excited to have you. Each week we cover a topic on organizing that is to motivate you, inspire you, and help you get a specific area of your home nice, neat, and organized. This week's topic is a pantry that I organized a few weeks ago, and I'm going to walk you through the steps and process that was involved into getting it all organized. So really the goal of this pantry is this homeowner wanted to be able to see everything. And when we get into it, you'll see just kind of how busy it was. It was hard to find things, and she didn't want to be buying duplicates. So that was the first goal, is making sure to be able to see everything. Second goal was to fit within the budget realm of product and figuring out what made the most sense. So we'll talk about where product was purchased so we could stay within the budget. And last is creating something that was functional for everyone involved in the family, making sure that everyone is on the same page. Because when you have one person that's doing it, yeah, it's fine, great, and dandy, because you'll be able to keep it that way. But when you have multiple people in the house, it makes it a bit more challenging. So it was about also creating a really good system that is built to last, that makes sure that everyone is on the same page. All right, so let's get into it. Okay, so here is an overview of the before, and as you can see, it's just a bit busy and has kind of items shifted throughout the shelves here and kind of hard to find things. So the first step was to empty out this pantry completely so we could get a better feel for what was in there and what was expired, what we were going to keep, and then understand the buying needs, because that is something to also think of when you're getting organized, that what do you buy on a regular basis? And once we had those things in place, then it was a lot easier to figure out what type of setup we were going to have. All right, so this is typically the longest part in process when getting organized, is decluttering through everything, creating categories, figuring out what to keep, what to get rid of. And that's essentially what we did here, is started sorting through it, creating categories, working through it as you go, and then have an idea from there of what's left, and then decide what type of bins are needed. The overall goal for this pantry was to be able to see everything, which is why we added an expandable shelf and turntables that make it easier to see every single item. You can, with the tiered shelving, you can see all the cans, and the turntables allow you to rotate it to see what else is on there. And the last and most important step is labeling, to make sure everything goes back to the right place. All right, one final look at the before picture, and we are going to head into the after. Voila! All right, I'm going to walk you through the process here again of how this all came back together so it was nice, neat, and organized, and most importantly, can be set up for that way. So we're going to start out at the bottom and work our way up. So the bottom added some larger cabinet-sized bins that fit nicely there, and I love these mesh bins because they hold a lot, but they're also clear-ish, so you can see what is in there. And then slapping on a label just to not create any confusion, but making sure things go back to the right place. But open bins make it a lot easier to grab and get what you need, and that's what these bins do here. Moving on up, added in some deep drawer bins because these shelves were 16 inches deep. And she already had 2 of the large size bins, so I wanted to build on it from there, and that's why I ended up getting a 6-pack from Costco. They are the most cost-effective way to buy them, and knew that we wanted to keep this functional as well, So that's why these bins were used, because you can still reach into what you need rather than having to take out the entire bin. And they're clear as well. And our number one goal for this pantry was to be able to see everything. And that's why those bins were clear. Moving on up to the next row, we've got some turntables that were added there for the spices and oils. Those turntables were a set purchase from Costco as well. 2-pack, I believe, were on sale for like $11.99, which is a great deal. They're normally about $8.99 a piece, depending on what brand you're going with. But from the most cost-effective standpoint, that's really kind of what you're going to see, which is why Costco wins again in this scenario. I like using turntables for oils and vinegars and spices because they are round and they maximize space and they make it easy to get what you need. Then kind of moving over back to the breakfast aisle. They like the boxes, so we kept them there so they could see what they needed, and we just kind of lined them up all in color-coded order and then just put labels on the shelving itself. Again, placement going back to the items going back to the right place, and then moving on over, you've got the pancakes and the Pop-Tarts and that sort of thing. We added an expandable shelves for the cans, and I love expandable shelves in particular for cans because they allow you to see everything from a vertical standpoint. I'm not a huge proponent of the side can dispensers because you got to turn your head, angle it to read it. I want to see it straight on. And these essentially, they're like bleachers. You know, when you go to stadium, you don't have everyone all in the same row. They're all angled up, bleacher level, so you can everyone can see what you need. And that's what this expandable shelf does. They work great for pantries, especially for the canned goods. They work for spices, condiments, and in this particular scenario, they purchase canned goods on a frequent basis. So we wanted to set that all up so it was all on eye level. And then arrange them color code. We identify by colors and quickly identify it. And that's when we display it. Just gives that nice, beautiful look that when you open up that pantry, it's just like, oh, this is amazing. All right, so across on the same shelf as the expandable shelf on the other side is the pasta shelving. So this is just a different view so you can see this, but we really tried to create zones for each shelf as you move up. And I like to try to keep items in the same place that they were previously, so it's not changing too much of your habits, because that's something to keep in mind. Is habits are hard to change, and it's very easy to fall back into habit. And when you get organized, you're creating new habits because it's a new system and a way of doing things that you weren't necessarily doing before, which is why I try to keep those items in the same area, because that's where you're used to putting them. We're just improving the space. So that's kind of where we had the pastas were up on that shelf there, and just wanted to keep them there, but made it better by adding food storage containers so we can consolidate the noodles. If you've got the same type of noodle in multiple boxes, food storage containers work great for that because it maximizes the space because they're vertical, they're taller, and you basically eliminate 2 to 3 boxes depending on what type of noodle you have and container. But it makes the most sense. And then you can also see how much you have left. So it's a totally beautiful thing. And then there were the bins that she already had and incorporated those in by using the items that had a lot of packaging to them. So those packets, those are kind of hard to stay organized, and that's why they work great in bins, which is why they were put into these ones so we could also, again, see how many that were in there. The end goal is to be able to see everything. And then up at the top shelf, still was using the Tupperware bins that she already had, just added some labels to it, and then some more clear bins that were stackable that would create some more space. That was for the rest of the baking items. Baking wasn't something that she frequently does, but wants to be able to see it, which is why we put those up at the top shelf, kind of tucked away into the corner, and then they're there when she needs them and needs to access them. All right, so this is just really a view of the pantry itself, that it's all been completed, of all the bins that and containers that were used to keep everything neatly organized. These deep drawer bins work great for condiments and items. There comes in 3 different sizes, and the small ones allow things to stay in their container. We like things that are nice and neat and in uniform. And these separate compartments keep everything in their own lane. And that's why these work really well here. The bottom bins, as I previously mentioned, they're nice and big and make it a lot easier to kind of toss items in there. As we move up, this just gives you a full scope of visual of the pantry itself and how we were able to make best use of every inch that was in there to make it completely function well. Okay, so here on the other side of the pantry, again, are these deep drawer bins. Kept them at the bottom because, again, is you can reach and grab and go as you need. And the other thing that works great with these bins is when you get home from the grocery store, all you got to do is you can do it in the pantry. You can take the bin out itself and empty out the items. For this particular example, we'll say the fruit snacks, and you just toss them in right there. And then when you need it, you grab it. You don't even need to grab the entire bin. It's easy to reach. There's not too many movements involved. And was the entire goal of getting this organized to make it functional, is to minimize the amount of movements. If you have to take a lid off or this and that, and so many steps are involved, you're less likely to keep it that way. So having these open bins that were deep enough to hold all the items is what made the most sense. And then back up to the expandable shelves and the turntables that made things just much more accessible and easy to see. And that is how we got this pantry nice and organized. Now it is your turn to go tackle your pantry, get it nice and organized, share it on social, tag Organized Marie so we can feature it so everyone can see your nice work. That is it, my friends, for this week's episode. Thank you, as always, for tuning in and watching. If you enjoyed this, could you do us a favor and share it with a friend? This helps us spread our content, and we are so appreciative of it. Be sure to subscribe and follow us on social at Organized Marie.